Hey, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Sharice, and here I help Black men and women heal from trauma and toxic relationships. Today, we will be reviewing Evelyn from the internet's video about if she should be taking antidepressants. I've been following Evelyn for a while. She's been on the internet, I think, over a decade, and she has documented pretty well, pretty entertainingly, her experience with depression. Her words, not mine. I would never diagnose anyone who hasn't paid me and come into my office with depression. I only see people online, but I wouldn't diagnose anyone on the internet with anything because I need to know all of the information before I can give a diagnosis. But I think it's helpful how she talks about depression and then how she's going to be talking about antidepressants to educate other people, right? Because she has hundreds of thousands of followers and people are looking. You might not want to admit it, but people are looking for information, direction, recommendations on what they should do. And I think this is going to be helpful to so many people.
Welcome to my little Q&A series. Today's question asks, have you thought about getting on antidepressants for your depression?
Who said that? Who said that?
Who said that? No, who said that? Ruh-roh. Jinkies. But let's talk about it. This person is probably referencing, this internet cousin, is probably referencing any number of videos that I've posted in the past 4 years, maybe the whole time, who knows? Everywhere I go, there I am. This person is probably referencing any number of videos in which I was downtrodden and forlorn. Roll that beautiful bean footage. The closest word I can think of is depressed, but that's not it. It almost feels in my body, it almost feels like protest. I am unable to pretend. I don't know how we're supposed to keep doing this. Like, I don't get it. It feels like I'm missing something because I will feel excited and then I'll be like, for what? I don't know if this is making any sense. It's like a cosmic punked. Yeah, I can see where this comes from. You're an observer.
Before she continues, there's also, I'm going to go over some of the comments in her comment section because, right, this is educational. I think what she's describing is exactly what depression is. One of the ways that people often describe it is, I just don't really feel like doing anything. Like, the world is crazy. So much is going on. What is the point of anything, right? And on my channel, I also have a video from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Maybe another video where I talk about nihilism, which is like an extreme version of depression, where it's like nothing matters. There's no meaning to anything. Look at the state we're in. What's the point of doing anything? And when you go to therapy, if you come to me, the whole point is to help you exist in this world because humans are a mess. And so there will always be something contradictory. There will always be some kind of chaos going on. How can you better deal with the world versus waiting for the world to catch up and be this wonderful, pristine place where you can thrive, right? There's also different reasons that somebody might become depressed. And as she starts talking more about the antidepressants, I'll go into the different, ways or pathways that somebody can experience depression.
But this is what I've settled on. I think that I am having a natural response to my environment. I told my therapist that I feel like a whale at SeaWorld. What's that? Captivity. Yes, the entire world is a SeaWorld though. Sometimes that dorsal fin is gonna flip-flop to and fro. I was like, my circumstances are not fine, but I'm fine. Do you get the difference? And I think that's where I'm at right now. That's the conclusion that I've come to. I'm not necessarily having a good time, but it's not my fault. It's all of this that is nefarious. It's that even word. I strongly recommend just using words and then looking up what they mean. Wicked. It's a Babylon ting. How do you be in the belly of the beast, in the belly of the Babylon ting, and not lose your mind?
I think it's interesting how she, had to do the qualifier about Babylon because it's a real place. She also, not in this video, but she's also part of a group of people that I've paid attention to in my categorizing people thing that focus a lot on things happening out there, way out there. I'm not saying I don't want you to care. I want you to care about humanity and making the world a better place, but you can't care more about what's happening over there. For example, what's happening in Israel, in the war, because there's many wars happening in the world, but the ones that get broadcast the most ends up being what people who experience anxiety, depression focus on the most. Like, why should I even be thriving when there's a kid whose parents just got killed? That has nothing to do with you. How about we leave the people who are in foreign policy to be doing the actuals of the day-to-day, trying to make sure that other people are safe? And how about in your day-to-day life, you become the best person, the best version of you that you can actually be right here, so that you're treating the people closest to you extremely well and loving, so that you're making a contribution to this world without all of the distraction of everything that's happening out there that we can't control it. And so I would never encourage anybody to not be aware of what's happening, but there is a balance between how can I support, how can I give, how can I bring awareness, and how can you live your best life? How can you thrive in this world? Especially, these are my politics, but to me, especially if you are a Black woman in America or a Black woman in any country that does not exalt you, which is what all of them, focus on being happy, being an inspiration to the next generation, and being depressed in a way that stops you from creating, or stops you from doing, or stops you from living, stops you from thriving. I don't think that's the way we're intended to live on Earth.
Better people than me have said that. Smarter people than me have said that. I'm not taking meds because I'm not depressed. This is just depressing. But if you take away all the depressing stuff, I'm vibing. My only consumable vice is sugar. So I'm truly raw dogging life at all times. I'm experiencing reality every second of the day. I be feeling the badness. But I think if you are able to be funny, it's because you have the capacity to experience profound sadness. And so I think I just am experiencing, and I'm always experiencing, the ability to receive everything, but push out light. Receive everything, push out light, but that does still mean.
The point she's getting to here, still, from a psychologist's perspective, she's still describing depression, right? I think part of the being an empath, I'm not saying she is, but in my experience, being an empath, the receiving everything, we have to create a barrier, a border. No, the goal is not to receive everything. The goal is not to be permeable. You want to be able to observe everything, but you don't have to receive everything. It doesn't have to come into your being, because that literally drains you. All of that negativity takes up the space inside of you where light is. And, she's making the point about humor. Robin Williams is a good example, but sad comics is like a theme, because so many people are using humor to cover the pain underneath. You gotta deal with the pain. It does kind of make you less funny. It's kind of like writing poetry. Happy people do not write the best poems. I'm just so there is something to be said about genius and mental illness and creating things and tapping in and all of that. But you can be creative and excited, mostly happy, versus being stuck in the sadness or the lethargy or the exhaustion or the fatigue, whatever your experience of this thing is that's stopping you from enjoying life. That's the theme. How we enjoy life. I want you to be happy, enjoy life.
That a little bit of the darkness be inside. I think that's what it is, maybe. But I'm so good. If I could figure out how to create a safe, loving, stable life for myself, in which I'm able to participate in the lives of the people that I love, and if I'm able to be myself without having to engage in shady stuff, not morals, but my values, always having to kind of put them to the side in order to get this money, stack the papers up because a house costs $2 million. Now you got to fly to Turkey to get a cavity filled. If I could build a great life for myself in a legitimate way, there would be nothing to be depressed about. But I don't know, I haven't figured out how to do that. So I'm struggling.
As a creator on this space, I'm going to be doing a video about how it's taken me 5 years to get monetized on YouTube. When you are highly ethical, spiritual, I don't know if she's spiritual, but when you are searching for the light, when you are moved by love, listen, this is not the way capitalism works. I don't know if it's working against capitalism, but it's difficult to get capitalism to work for you when the premise of capitalism is manipulate, take advantage, use people. I wish capitalism at its extreme. We all have to participate in capitalism, right? I'm here on YouTube, I get AdSense, I run a business, people pay me. Like, that part is very important, but I don't charge no shows in my private practice. I lose money when people cancel at the last minute. I lose money when people do not show up. So, like, I understand, like, the getting money, but I've also set up my life in a way where, yes, all the things she's talking about, I think is very doable. I work like 3 days a week, not counting YouTube, right? But this is like so fun and easy. I make the amount of money that's minimum required for the lifestyle that I want, right? There is a way to do it. I just don't think it's easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And what everybody is doing is looking for the next hot thing, looking for the next trend, looking for the thing that goes viral. They don't care if the quality of it is good. I care. It's taken me 5 years to get monetized on YouTube. I care about the product that I put out. And I understand that most people are sheep and that they want to be led. And I cannot go to sleep at night leading people astray just for money, not for money, right? And so I feel Evelyn, when she's talking about, I want to do things in a particular way. The field that she's interested in, I mean, the self-help field can be real toxic-y and scammer vibes, right? There are those spiritual gurus who want to take your money and do all the things. There's the the self-help courses, all that stuff that can be real scammy. But like the Hollywood, she acts, she writes, she produces, like she's so creative. That world is so toxic. Oh my gosh, it's so toxic. And maybe if she looked a different way, this would be an easier thing for her, because we know in America, when you look a certain way, people treat you a certain way. But there's a way. I promise you, there's a way. Like, Evelyn, I promise you, Evelyn, there is definitely a way to live your best life while not compromising your morals.
Like I'm always trying to make something, making it from 0 to 100, bring it to 100, 0, bring it to 100. I'm never maintaining as much as I am digging. And like, that's not like fun and sexy. Like, that is depressing to feel that way. But I wouldn't say that I'm depressed. Does that make sense? And I believe I said it in that previous video.
No, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but no, it doesn't make sense. That's what depression is.
I'm full of those like dichotomies, I guess you could say, contradictions. So what you're seeing in those videos that this person might be referencing is a crisis of what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to like participate in this? This is a joke. That's depressing. It's actually not fun, but it is the truth. And I don't know if you've seen the self-care video by now, self-care Q&A, but I be trying to tell the truth. And the truth is that I'm a whale at SeaWorld. And you are too. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? No, really, what we gonna do? What was the question? Am I taking it? It's a common trope for people who need meds to swear up and down that they don't need meds. So I really feel for anybody who, even if your material conditions improved, even if you had everything you needed, even if you felt loved, even with all those things, you still feel down, or worse, nothing. I really feel for you, and I want to say I'm here for you, but like, what would that do? Which is,
so the point I want to make here is about, even if your life circumstances change, will your depression go away? And for a lot of people, yes, it will go away. I think it's still helpful to call it depression, because if you're in it, the goal is to cope and not like want to end everything while you're going through that difficult time. So how I distinguish between, a few, but two major types of, they're not types. This is not real clinical. This is just my perspective on depression. Is there are some people that they're in a situation that's very taxing on them. They become depressed, right? They lost a child, they lost a parent, they're experiencing, complicated bereavement. Their life is not turning out the way that they want it to go. They end up being depressed. What is depressed? Depressed is more than sad. Depressed is I'm unable to function because of the level of sadness. They might not experience sadness. They might experience fatigue or a lack of interest in activities, oversleeping, all those things. How are they after their situation changes? If they're better, great. This was the cure for the depression. If they're not, okay, then I tend to lean towards you have one of those life themes of depression, right? So if we're thinking about a depression that comes back, if something else happens in life, really you're supposed to be stronger after the last thing that happened. you don't have to get depressed again. But if you haven't got the lesson, you'll get it again. But there are some people that, regardless of what's happening in their life, it could be really great, it could be not so great, they're going to feel the heaviness. They're going to feel like they can't really function. They're going to feel like life is not bright, that there's not good things that are coming to them. And to those people, I recommend
to say. So yeah, girl, I'm just coping with aspartame. The Coke Zero of it all. Aspartame is so bad. Oh my God, not a known carcinogen. Oh my God. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. I blacked out. I don't really know what I just said, but hopefully I was able to edit it in such a fashion that it was both entertaining and informative and ever so slightly helpful, useful. Let me know.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the comments. I didn't find anyone talking badly about medication, but I definitely had a bias because I was going in there looking for, who are the people that can register that what we're seeing is somebody talk about depression. Somebody said, I started on antidepressants when I was 29 after being resistant to them for the prior 10 years. And that's definitely a thing. These medications have side effects, some real bad side effects. There's a black box label warning on antidepressants because they can make you suicidal. Just something to consider, right? I encourage people to do their research and to see a psychiatrist. There are lots of different people who can prescribe psychotropic medication. I personally, with the education that I have, I would only go to a psychiatrist. They are more expensive, but this is you, your health, your mental health. I would only go to a psychiatrist. I would only go to a psychiatrist or a prescribing psychologist. I would go to a psychiatrist, and if that's unavailable, a prescribing psychologist. Most psychologists cannot prescribe. I cannot prescribe. And then there are, different nurse practitioners, I think, that can prescribe. I would go to a psychiatrist. Okay. I started antidepressants when I was 29 after being resistant to them for the prior 10 years, despite being a really obvious candidate for them because diagnosed with GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. I told myself that I didn't need them because I really only felt bad because of my surroundings. At that time, I had recently started law school. I was in a new city where I didn't know anyone. The course load of law school was extreme and emotionally heavy, and the news seemed filled with one catastrophe after another. During that time, I was constantly telling my therapist that it was rational to feel the way I did because anyone in my situation would feel stressed, isolated, and depressed. And my therapist at one point said, yeah, but not everybody does feel that way, which is the point I made. We all live in this world. Some people are depressed and some people are not. The same world is happening. And not all of us are dissociating or delusional or not acknowledging that there's catastrophes in the world. Some of us can actively acknowledge that there are catastrophes in the world and say, I deserve to live a good life. Everybody deserves to live a good life. And something in that made it click for me. I decided that session that I'd try antidepressants and see if they made it easier to cope with life, and they for sure did. They do. People who've been using antidepressants, typically it takes about a month, 6 weeks to, get to therapeutic levels in the body, but they describe it as like taking the edge off or taking a load off, like things feel easier or things that were triggering them before don't seem as difficult. It's a little bit easier to get out of bed. It's not the cure all. The research encourages you to use antidepressants in tandem with therapy. That's the most efficacious, but therapy alone, medication alone does provide benefit. I never stopped feeling like there were depressing things happening in the world, nor did I ever feel like I would ditch my personal convictions, but it made me stop feeling like I had no agency, and it made it so much easier to focus on positives in the world and in myself, which I haven't even talked about. There's so much good in the world. Remember when, what's his name? Jim from The Office, not Jim, but the actor, made Good News Network, and so many millions of people tuned in to hear him say good stuff about people. Much more good things are happening in the world than bad things. And one of the hallmarks about depression, it's about viewing self negatively, viewing others negatively, viewing the world negatively. When you focus on the things that are going bad in the world, your thoughts reflect that, and your thoughts impact your feelings, and so you feel sad, depressed, hopeless, whatever it is. But you can focus on what's going well. in your life and in the world, because a lot of things are going well. More things are going well than you think. Even the election cycle that we're in now with, Trump and, Vice President Harris, there is so much progression that has been made. I encourage you to look at it decades at a time to see how much the world and the United States has moved forward. And that even though people are trying to, people were fighting for slavery to continue, the same way they're fighting for, this toxic, very old paradigm, the old world paradigm to continue, where the hierarchy was extremely exclusive and people who look like me are always at the bottom. Baby, I'm not at the bottom. I'm at the top of my life. I'm thriving in my life, and I live in America, okay? It doesn't have to be worst case scenario all the time, just because racism, capitalism, all the things still exist. Additionally, I ended up going through the worst upheaval of my life so far while I was on antidepressants, and those things were working overtime for me. Truly, I don't know how I would have gone through that period of my life without them. As for the downsides, they were pretty minimal. I was on Zoloft and then Lexapro, and my two worst side effects were these little electric shocks I would feel every once in a while in my head, and legs and night sweats. Some of my clients have described stomach ailment, and feeling fatigued more so than they did before. Night sweats are a thing I don't hear anyone ever talk about when they talk about SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, particularly in my hands. I went to school for real, in case you didn't know. I don't often talk psychology on my channel because this is a spiritual channel, but I like to merge the two worlds sometimes. There's always a spiritual solution to any problem, and so you don't need medication, but medication was invented. God gave somebody the idea to make medication, so I encourage people to use all the different interventions that are there available to you. I also physically felt shakier while I was on my SSRIs, particularly in my hands. But the biggest things I feared, side effects wise, not feeling like myself or feeling like a walked out zombie, never happened. That typically only happens when you are taking a higher dose than you need to get the effects. I tapered off a little while ago after graduating law school, but I'd still be open to trying them again in the future if I ever needed them. And I do encourage antidepressants as a time limited thing, right? You take them for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but not for the rest of your life. You take them while you're learning coping skills so that you can deal with the next thing that happens in life. Okay, the next one, baby cousin, I feel you. I think she says BB. Baby cousin, I feel you, but I got a psychiatric evaluation, saw a clinician for medication management, and now your boy is on his journey to a sustainable, positive mental state. That's great. I've been on meds for 10 years. Everything doesn't work for everybody, but my valleys aren't as low. I don't cry as much. It helps my anxiety. I no longer want to be unalived. Without antidepressants, I would be unalive. It saved my life. I'm happy to hear that. So there is a relationship between anxiety and depression. I tell my clients depression is on one end, anxiety is on the other, but they're part of the same pole. Your expression of whatever is happening inside of you just might look like depression or look like anxiety. And in fact, the medication that is used, antidepressants, are used to treat both depression and anxiety. It's better to call them SSRIs or SNRIs than to say antidepressants per se, because the same neurotransmitters are involved in anxiety and depression. My biggest regret in life is not going on antidepressants sooner. I think a lot of the discourse around them can be really negative, but for me, they have made me so much happier and less anxious. I also take medication for insomnia, which has been the single biggest improvement in my quality of life I can imagine. I don't spend 2 hours laying in bed hoping to fall asleep at minimum each night. Live, laugh, Lexapro. Lexapro can help with that. There are so many things that can help alleviate the symptoms of depression outside of antidepressants. Whenever I'm meeting with a client for the first time, I start with diet, moving your body, how are you sleeping, what are your daily routines. So I want to know who you talk to on a regular basis and how you're treating yourself for most of the day, because our life is lived in a day-to-day. And I have a routine planner that you can download for free on my website, Spiritual Sense. It's just so important that our day-to-day, the present moment that we live in, be something that's enjoyable to us and that we feel capable of dealing with whatever stressors come our way. And if not, that's okay to be in the process of figuring out what will help me feel better. That's what life is about. Life is about feeling good. I like feeling good. My therapist says the same thing to me. You're not depressed. Your circumstances are depressing, which I would agree with. But my circumstances have been the same for a long time and not changing yet. And meds have made my life so much better. I think this is well said. I didn't realize what I was feeling was close to depression, maybe is depression, until others told me and were concerned I was feeling so down and numb and apathetic. All symptoms of depression. Personally, can say that meds have made me feel like I did in high school. Personally, can say that meds have made me feel like I did in high school before I had any real worries. It has made me less anxious too. I've been lucky in that the first med I tried has worked. That's true. For a lot of people, the first medication they're prescribed or the first dose that they're prescribed does not work and needs to be adjusted, or you try something else before you can feel the benefits. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope it was helpful. If you think that someone else might benefit from watching this video about if they should or shouldn't take antidepressants, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but to examine what would work best for you, talk to a mental health professional, a psychiatrist, talk to your primary care, talk to somebody, anybody about what can help you feel better in life. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Not so much mental health, but definitely, some psychology, spirituality, how to live a better life. That's what I'm here for, to help you thrive. Thank you.